Bonjour, hola, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Worldwide Tea. It is the international drag race podcast where we will recap, dissect, analyze, and criticize one of the greatest reality show elimination franchises of all time. My name is Evan Sawdey from Pop Matters.
I'm Gregory Ellwood. I'm from the playlist, and you may have read me on the LA Times.
And we are here every week to talk about all things international drag race. And we are very gluttonous right now. We are in a time where, once again, four international seasons are running concurrently. So there is a lot to talk to. I'm positive this is going to be a supersized episode. We also get more comfortable with the format every week, so that makes it all the better. But first off, before anything else, Greg, if I'm not mistaken, I think in the past week you actually met up with a drag race judge. He was on the US season and showed up in Down Under. How was Troye Sivan?
Oh, Troye Sivan. Well, I did go and see the first Brat show at the Forum. And by the way, for those jealous New Yorkers on social media who are trying to spin that Charlie was upset with the energy from the LA audience, no, that's not what it was. When she was saying, LA, are you kidding? It's because we knew the words to the entire song she had just not sung, and we had gone crazy for it. So that's not what that was. That's a little fake news, bitches.
Yeah, we're just
But
spelling the narratives that you're seeing on social
yes, the
media right
narratives,
here.
I get it, New York. You only got one show. You were all upset. There was no second show. I get it. I literally had a friend message me and be like, New York's mad at you. And I'm like, sorry. But no, the one quick thing I will say about former drag race judge and frequent actually he's had more than one, I think,
Appearance on Down Under, yeah. Well, I mean, good buddy with Leland, so always again in the Drag Race
Yes.
universe, yeah.
And by the way, got Leland a Grammy nomination last year because Rush Rush was produced by Leland. But he's a great dancer with dancers. And Charlie is now, when Charlie goes out by herself, she is a force. And
Yeah.
Troye is very good. But he
Yes.
has his fans. There were so many fans who loved him there. And then there were some people when he performed who decided to go to the bathroom and get something to drink. Like, it's just true.
It was his first stadium tour. We're gonna give him a pass on it. It's all good.
It's all
But
good.
hey, while we are here to recap a bunch of episodes, this is also the Worldwide Tea podcast, and that's why you have Gregory Ellwood here as the co-founder and co-host, because he does have some tea. And before we get into any of the currently running seasons, much as how this week, which by the way, for the record, Global All-Stars, it's nearing its end. We're at the halfway point with Espana. UK's ramping up, and Thailand Season 3 just premiered. But on top of the Thailand note, which we thought was dormant for a long time, Greg told me earlier in this week that there is another franchise which looks like it is heading for a revival.
So Drag Race Holland, which I think it's been maybe 3 years since we've had a season. Maybe longer.
Since that extremely controversial season 2, for the record. When, for those who don't know, frontrunner Vanessa Van Cartier called out another queen for having a phone in her hotel room to do research. It was called out on the stage, and instead of eliminating her, they made her lip sync against Kate Minaj, the frontrunner, who then immediately went home and did not win the lip sync. It wasn't a good look, let's be real. But anyway, that's how it ended. I was surprised, not surprised it wasn't renewed when that happened, but continue.
I mean, I sort of would because there's so many great queens in Holland, but that was a very strange season. The rumor is that a new production company has acquired the rights for Drag Race Holland in that market, and they are currently running a show, and I don't know the name of it. I apologize. It is basically the Dutch version of Drag Race secret celebrity Drag Race.
Okay.
So it's their version of a Masked Singer where a celebrity comes out and nobody knows who it is, and they do a lip sync or something like that. And it's hosted by Envy Peru and Jackie Janae is on. Is that right? Janae? Jackie?
Yeah. Jackie Janae.
I've seen her live, that I'm like forgetting her last name. And then and I think Jackie JK. Yes. And I think and Vanessa has been part of that show, and so has and Fred is like a part of it as well. So the rumors have been for a while that Drag Race Holland was coming back, and then even those queens revealed that this had happened. Envy even did a post, and none of them are saying we're shooting next year. we have a deal with a broadcaster yet, but it is assumed that they do because this is a more even legit production company than the one that was making Drag Race Holland originally. So it is believed Drag Race Holland is coming back. If you want to place a bet, I would say that when they have DragCon UK in London in about 2 months, there will be an announcement or something like that. WoW likes to have a lot of reveals. They're just like, you know, Marvel or DC does at Comic-Con. They're very smart about it. They sort of get it. So it could be coming back, and potentially Envy could be the host. The word is that Fred wouldn't host. So that would be exciting.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. Where at this point we've now seen enough queens actually host that it's
Yeah.
like it is very clearly there. Those who understand the format can do a good job with it too. And we'll get to it in a minute. But when we talk about Thailand, the show is hosted by Pangina. The previous 2 seasons were actually co-hosted with Art Araya, and she's just on the panel now. So it's the weird
Yeah.
time when someone actually stepped down from a hosting panel, but was actually still the judge. So anyway, I'm excited for Envy. Love Envy. So we'll see if that actually matures into something great. So
Yes, absolutely. I hope it does.
yeah, good tea, I will say. But with that said, we have so much to get through this week.
Yeah.
So we are right now at the Drag International Terminal. We've done our Drag TSA pre-check here. Greg, where are we heading to first?
We're going to Global All Stars. We've got 2 left, including this
Got
week.
2 left, baby. So, Global All Stars, it finally comes back. We are down to our top 4 at long last. We have, of course, Alyssa, Queen Kong, Kitty Scott Claus, and Nalenia. And of course, this time they wanted to go ahead and do a returning queens thing. They already had them come over for the makeover challenge, and now they're doing the thing I do love, the Lalapalooza. The already done had hers moment, which is great. I love it when they have more screen time for the queens. It's fantastic. But I will say, before we get into that, after the elimination and when the girls were just kind of talking about it, it's something that you talked about in our first episode last week, where you talked about how they need to get better story producers. And I realized when there was the confessionals of like, finally, I made it to the top, and like, and I didn't really get to do it in my season on here, and I just kind of realized like, there's no storylines this season. Like, it is just weird, like, outside of people being rude to Nelly for the most part, like, it's just like there's no ongoing thing that happened. There was the nice moment of acknowledging that Alyssa Edwards, who, you know, one of the most famous queens to ever come out of the US franchise and never made it to the finale and finally is here. Like,
Yeah.
that was lovely. I thought that was a very nice moment, and it was, you know, rightly preserved. But everything else, it's just like the queens are here, you know, like it's just one of the odder things about this show is that, again, I think we've expressed that we wanted to come back, but just
Yeah.
there needs to be better story production that goes on with
I
it.
I actually did think this was one of the I thought it started last episode, but I thought this episode was one of the first time they were trying to go harken back to any storylines by referencing, and sometimes it was organically because the queens were doing it, like, you know, oh, Gala, you know, lip syncing against Eva again, or you know, Vanity, you know, talking about she's still the lip sync assassin, and you know, Queen and Kitty, you know, talking to Alyssa on the couch about how, you know, you finally made it to, you know, the finale, which she was very emotional about it legitimately, but they never made that a storyline that should be a goal for Alyssa to make it to the through the whole rest of the season. And here we are, and they're talking about it. I'm like, oh, this is good. I have to, the other thing I loved about this episode too wasn't just the idea that any storylines perked, but I felt like this was the first time, and maybe it was organic and it happened when they were on set, that they were all really rooting for each other. And
Yeah.
it didn't seem super competitive. And there was like joy and support. And they felt really, it started last time too. And maybe even in the makeover challenge, they felt um they felt really natural. And it felt like any walls that had happened at the beginning had sort of come down. And in the work, it just felt like oh, this is a drag race season. Like this is how the girls usually talk. And
Absolutely.
I hope there's some lessons somehow that they can learn for a next season with that. Because I don't think it was the queens. I think it was how they set it up. I'm actually quite curious how they can fix that for the next time around.
Exactly. And there was like a couple very small snide remarks from Kitty over there, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it was just overall a celebration. And I think the Queen's coming back and doing a Lollapalooza, that's lovely. Finding out it's yet another Lollapalooza of RuPaul songs, less lovely. But still, you know, we are.
You know, I was talking to a friend about this. I think part of it though is because someone's like, oh, they're being so cheap, they're not spending money. And I'm like, I actually don't think that's what it was. I think they were trying to, because they have spent money. If you're giving $200,000 plus another 50,000, and then spoiler, there will be it's not going to be called miscongeniality. It's going to be called something else. But that queen's also getting another supposedly 10,000. That's a lot of money, even when you're sponsored by Klarna in 3 easy payments. But even that, they're spending money. They're not spending what they do on the US seasons, but they're spending more on any freaking other international season that Ru's on. 100%. And I actually think they picked the Ru songs because chances are it's a level playing field, and these international queens probably know these Ru songs. So it makes it like when you have to come back and you have to learn all these lip syncs for a final episode, in theory, it might make it easier. Like I wasn't actually surprised that Gala knew the words or most of the words to Call Me Mother, because she's probably heard it 20 million times.
Right.
As opposed to some random Sophie L.A. Spexter song, if they'd given her, that she might not have known at all.
That is a very fair point too. It is interesting though, because there's been so many different Ru lip syncs from previous seasons on there. It was possible there could have been a repeat, and very specifically when Pythia, when she had the chance to choose a song, she very easily could have picked Call Me Mother, the song that she beat Geometric with to make it into the finale for Canada season 2. So she didn't do that. She picked a different one. So actually full credit to her for doing that.
Time out.
But
did Pythia won a lip sync on her season? Like I didn't even really. Like,
yes, in the reunion episode right before the finale, it was a top 4, and by the end of the episode, they were taking it down to a top 3. So the top 4 had to lip sync, and then it finally came down to Pythia versus Geometric to Call Me Mother, which Pythia won. So for me, it was the kind of thing where like everyone talked about how she was, the lesser challenge on there. She was the spice of the season, if you will. But it's the same thing. It's like I've seen that she can do it before. She has won, but clearly it wasn't enough. But hey, they're on the main stage. They're in some pretty interesting bodysuits for the most part. For the record, the top 4 queens, they definitely had the here's what I have left outfits on, with the exception of Delania, who actually put in some goddamn effort, which I always appreciate every time. Surely.
Well, yeah, and also that outfit is amazing, although it would have looked so much better without the little doggy. Like, I get it that she's supposed to, it's like a doggish look, but it would look so stunning without the little collar thing. Alyssa's look I think Alyssa's was new. I don't think she'd worn that before, had she?
I would agree. It was certainly there.
Supposedly Queen is wearing her makeover look because some of her luggage got lost. Fine. Okay. Whatever.
Okay. All right. Well,
all right.
Take it as it, but hey, they're not competing this episode, that is. But instead, we have 8 queens going through it. It was, I thought, actually quite lovely too, because spoiler alert, a lot of the queens that went out earlier in the season actually really got a redemption moment here, and overcame a lot of stuff too, which was fantastic. Were there any immediate highlights from that first round for you?
Oh, definitely Athena having a moment and winning. Although it wasn't an amazing lip sync. I felt bad for Vanity because it was clearly the one word song she didn't know the lyrics
Evil
to.
Queen was very strategic with that. She knew it was her weakest song. And also Evil Queen, she has the words. They were clocked down every time, and I love that.
She has the words, but does she have the moves?
That's the tough part too, where it's like, and I think low key, especially when it came down to kind of the finale, especially when it was Soda Muse and Galavero in the beginning, it really came down to, do the words really matter at some points too? Because it was very clear that there was a bit of mush mouth happening in a couple of the lip syncs, and sometimes that mattered in the judging, and sometimes it didn't.
And by the way, was it? I guess that was the second round, but in the first round, I thought they were all fair. Nobody got robbed. It was all fine. Like it was. I thought they were good, and you could feel the energy. And I was super happy that Athena had a moment and got to win something, and sort of,
redeem her narrative a little bit. Yeah, and then so Evil Queen beat Vanity Vane to Just What They Want. Soda Muse beat Tessa T to ASMR Lover, and Tessa T, she put up a fight, but Soda Muse was on fire this entire episode. Athena Likas beat Pythia to Jealous of My Boogie, and Galavero beat Miranda Lebrau to Cha Cha Bitch. That one was a little sad.
That one was sad. Also, that was super close. I thought that was like super close, and I do think Gala won it, but like, I mean, thank God, because the Mexican fans would have gone nuts if she lost. But I thought Miranda impressed me with that, because she did not impress me with her when she was eliminated lip sync. In this one, I thought she lowered expectations just enough that she was like, oh wow, like she was great.
Right. She had this crazy black and white, like boob horn outfit on. She had a couple reveals that were a little bit clunky, but like it was still like a good show. Like it was a
Yeah,
good time. And then that led to, of course, Galavero. She has just this natural stage presence on here. And when it came up to her in Evil Queen had the words, Galavero didn't, but Galavero absolutely outperformed Evil Queen there.
yeah.
Evil Queen is just not a dancer, and that's okay. She is a fashion goddess and she can perform, just not on that same acrobatic level. And as we know a million times over, not every lip sync has to be acrobatic, but we're not always going to be. If you are acrobatic, we get stuff like Horacio Patasio versus Lexa Fox from Mexico season 2, which is one of the greatest lip syncs we've
Yes,
ever had. It happened this year, y'all. You need to check it out.
yes, watch
Uh,
it.
yeah, and then Soa Muse beat Athena Lakis to You Wear It Well. That was, I think, more of a blowout for me. I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty obvious. So leading to
Athena
a
was
top,
good though. Yeah,
yeah,
she wasn't bad.
absolutely. And the thing is that, like, the one thing about this episode that kind of struck me was that this, to me, was a little bit more of the promise of the season, because you have all these queens working together from so many great international franchises, but to have, like, oh my God, I never had in my bracket Soa Muse, one of my favorite queens from one of my favorite
Mm,
France seasons, up against Galavero, who was such a breakout star from Mexico. Like, together, they're fighting, they're lip syncing. Like, this is what the show is about. Like, yes, every week they were competing, but frequently when it's design challenges and sometimes even in some of the group challenges, they're still kind of competing individually. And here,
yeah.
when they're directly head to head, this was like a little bit more of the promise of the season kind of came to light. So overall, this was, I thought, a great episode.
I thought it was fantastic, and I did think that the wait, who did Gala in the second? Oh, when her hair fell off versus
Yes. Oh my God.
uh
It still won. Yeah.
she still won, and it was really interesting that the girls in the back did not think she'd won. They thought that was like disqualifying. And even if you watch Binge Queens, they're watching it live and they're reacting like, "Oh, that's it. She lost her weight." Like, and they were all really surprised she won. I wasn't, because it happened right at the end. Like if it happened
Right.
earlier, she probably would have been screwed.
It would have been a chop.
But
But she gave so much right before
yeah,
that. Right.
yeah, yeah.
I will say, it's overall good episode. Obviously, Soa Muse won. Tia Coffee, as Greg shared with me, shadily shared that this is a bodysuit that she had worn, that other queens have worn in multiple seasons before.
It's been handed. Tia handed it to her UK versus the World sister, La Grande Dame, who
Mm-hmm.
then gave it to Soda Muse, maybe for good luck. I don't remember. I don't think Legrand. I don't think either Tia or La Grande Dame wore it on television. They wore it like for performances,
Mm-hmm.
but I could be wrong. The photos that have come up of them wearing it are not from the show,
Right.
but they passed it down to. And to be honest, I would. It's the Tia should have kept it. It would be like her top 3 outfits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We love you,
I
Tia,
was
by
like,
the way.
why did you give up this amazing, like really cool, like like I don't get it. Like wild.
But hey, either way, Soa Muse won $50,000. All the queens got $10,000 from Klarna, or
Yeah.
$1,000 from Klarna. It's a lovely gesture, certainly.
And I do have to say, because we haven't really talked about that lip sync was so, can we swear? I don't even know if we
Yeah.
can swear on this.
Yeah, we can swear.
That lip sync was so fucking good. Like
Yeah.
so good, so full of joy. And you just watch it and you were like, so Demuse, you are a fucking star. Like you are so talented. You it just beamed. And I know that, and actually that was one of Gala's better lip syncs actually for the whole season. Like
100%.
that was actually better than some of her lip syncs on Mexico. I was like, okay.
I
Like it
agree.
was like, all right. But so was still just embodied the song and was it just I was beaming while I was watching. A friend of mine sent me a message saying they were like shaking watching because they could not believe it was just so full of joy. Another friend of mine was messaging while they were watching. It was like I'm like, oh my God, like going crazy. It was just it's so good. And I just, if you haven't watched Drag Race France, like this is what we're talking about. Like the quality is like top notch. And Silva went home what? Third this season or fourth? No, maybe she
Yeah,
lasted longer.
it was I think it was fourth.
Early.
It was the Jurassic Booby challenge, whatever the fuck
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Like, and
Or
if
it
she
was
had
right after
gotten
that.
the right order of challenges, she could have made it to the top 5 or 6. Like, she's that good. So to
Yeah.
see
Just
her
as she
win,
did on her original season. Yeah.
yes, to see her win was so good. So happy, and I've been very frustrated because I feel like Gala has been very negative online about the entire season, and she may have had a lot of feelings about how she was treated on the show, but she has a moment in this final episode where Rue like literally wreaks huge praise about her that they did not have to keep in the edit, that they edited this before any of this backlash ever happened. Right. And I'm sort of like, girl, like, come on. Like, they did everything they could to prop you up. Like, no one was robbed. Like, but just to fuel the, anyway, I don't want to go on that whole subject, but I do think that they did set up a little bit. We don't know who won the finale episode yet. And there's not a lot of tea about crowning. We should, I don't know, do you want to go talk about the potential final episode yet or not yet? Because there's some things that
we could probably save it for the actual, when we actually review it.
The only thing I was going to say is that if people are still hoping that Nelania is going to win, Nelania will be in Rome on it's in the morning when the episode drops. There will be a 9 a.m. screening that fans are invited to. So there's in theory still hope that she could win because they are going to have her there in case there is a crowning. So if you're Team Nelania, don't give up. Like there's a shot she could win. So she's not going to be at home watching like everybody else. So we'll see.
One thing that I do want to point out, though, and this is kind of a little bit more insidery, though.
Yeah.
Twitter, there's a lot of social media places out there, let's be real. But one of the things is that at the end of every, pre-finale episode, which team are you on? Are you on team blah, blah, etc.? So they have the hashtags on there, and I love it when they actually do on the official accounts, on the official either, Crave Canada or RuPaul's Drag Race, whatever it is, and they just kind of do it, and you see how many people retweet and like it. It's not the only metric of which to judge things, but you can definitely see where public opinion is. They have not done it for this one. They announced the hashtags, but none of the socials have been on there. So I did a little bit of digging. There is, I think, one of the fan YouTube accounts, which is, I think it's Drag Race polls. They just literally ask every episode who should be top, bottom, whatever. And they had a listing of what the the top 4 teams. And it's kind of amazing to see the response. This is the closest to an official count I can get. Sure. But the winning hashtag was Team Nelly by 79% in the votings. Like they were out there. Number 2, far behind, was Alyssa, and then in the back of the pack was Queen, and with like 1% of the vote was Kitty. Like it's just kind of wild what the public perception has been.
I think Paramount and WoW are doing everything they can to protect Queen and Kitty, and they don't want them to be either embarrassed or hurt, because if it could hurt them financially, could hurt them with bookings, and I think they know that. I also think they don't want to embarrass Alyssa. But I also feel like if Alyssa wins, people will be fine. It'll be fine. Like no one's going to be super upset. It'll be deserved. Right. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm very excited for next week. I have no idea what's happening.
Exactly. It'll be a good time. I'm excited about it. The one thing I do want to mention before we head out of here is that Soda Muse beat Galavero to the beginning.
Yes.
The last time that I remember them doing a lip sync was one of the most iconic ones for reasons. And that is, of course, Down Under Season 2, Queen Kong versus Beverly Kills. It is one of the most batshit lip syncs you have ever seen in your life. It is, if you ever think that like, oh, queens do too many stunts on here, you haven't seen Queen Kong and Beverly Hills just throw themselves on the stage with reckless abandon. It is a sight to be seen. It is actually hilarious. I highly recommend going back and seeing it just for that. It's near the end of the season.
I'll be honest, Down Under, I sometimes don't know if it's a nightmare that I've had sleeping when I remember it, or if I actually watched an episode. So it's all a mess to me, but I do remember that. That was amazing.
By the way, you talking about protecting Queen Kong, let me just point out that when season 3 of Down Under was airing, they brought her in as a choreographer for the top 3 near the final episode, and then didn't use any of the fucking choreography. So, which is just like, which people on Twitter were asking her about. So it's just like, I do think, wow, it's like even casting her on this was a little bit of a, we are so sorry for screwing you over for some of these things. Like, I get it. I get it.
I do think also that they like her and that she's a great Australian representation, but I also she's a little I don't know. Let's save it. I'm not gonna say anything more. I don't want to fan any flames. I do like her I think she's a very talented queen. She puts her foot in her mouth a lot on television, which a lot of people who go on television do. It happens.
Yeah. worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com. If you have thoughts and opinions, we would love to hear them. And we would also love to hear your opinions that we're about to espouse on another season. It is at the halfway point officially,
Mm.
and that is ESPANA season 4. We were just coming off. I love on the social medias this week, there's been nothing but the viral moment from last week of the surprise Anna locking runway, which is lovely. What an additional surprise for her to actually be imitated in Snatch Game this week, too, which is just the Anna celebration season. I'm not mad about it.
Wait, do you know what this lesson is? Because a lot of people criticized Drag España season 3. Focus your season on Anna locking. Like, put the focus on Anna, and it makes everything better.
Absolutely.
There's a moment where we're not really getting ahead of ourselves, but during the judging panel, when Supreme comes out and they're talking to the judges, they ask them who they would do on Snatch Game, and Anna in perfect English does a Charo imitation, and I know Anna can speak English very well, and I am putting this out into the ether. If anyone from WoW or Paramount is watching this, we need Anna locking on the panel for Global All-Star Season 2. Like, we can make it happen. She can be with Michelle. It can work, but we need Anna locking on the panel. We need that joy, that positivity to be around that season.
Listen, I know why you brought the hobbies on. I'm glad they were there. They're super hot. They got a wonderful response on there, but Anna locking is the heart of that panel.
Yes.
So it is something that she would endear herself to the world, rest assured. Starting the episode off, Kelly Pasa left. She left a very odd message on the mirror, long live the axis of evil, which has certainly garnered some interesting comments on there. But hey, before long, we're into the mini challenge.
So sorry,
I don't know. They mentioned that it was a group alliance type thing, but they didn't actually specifically mention it in any of the storylines that I'd seen prior. So it was kind of a little odd that they included it, but words are words, you know. She was there on a very long message. Yeah, who knows? Either way, but they went immediately into a brief discussion about, of course, Chloe Vitu's eyebrows that were there, which were used very prominently in the mini challenge, which was the reading challenge here. I feel like in the past year, this year, 2024 specifically, I feel like a lot of our seasons have had very weak reading challenges for the most part. And I think this one was no exception. I think it was okay.
Oh.
But I will say specifically, well, the winner of it was Le Coco, who definitely had some nasty, nasty reads. But I was actually very impressed with La Nina and Chloe Vitu. I thought they had some fantastic moments on there, and actually, low key, Mega Yellow, I thought was pretty fantastic too. Who was your standouts?
I actually thought maybe because they've been so bad, I had such low expectations.
The floor is just
the floor has dropped on reading challenges, and for any season, any country, including the U.S. that I was sort of like, oh, this is pretty good. Like, yeah. I was like, I laughed at that. Like, they're genuinely laughing. Like, and no one, I thought, bombed.
Right. Angelita didn't do great, but she at least had a couple bites in there. Yeah.
And I did think it was a really interesting episode because I think they, you know, Angelita has somehow become not somehow, she is the villain of the season.
Mm-hmm.
She's sort of a pain on the show, but they all sort of went for her, and you can tell that they're over it.
Yes.
And she got very, instead of like, she's 44 years old. Like, she could have just taken it and been like, evening confessionals, you know, been maybe self-deprecating. And she was like, to make fun of someone who's an older queen is of their age. I was like,
it's invalidating of their experiences. It's like, take a joke, girl. My God. Yeah. Are we Alexis Michelle all over again? Like, come on now. Like, seriously.
Charlie Hides. It was very Charlie Hides.
Absolutely. Like, yeah.
But I will say the Snatch Game was incredible. I thought it was fantastic.
It's weird because as much as we're talking about, I don't think there's been a lot of good reading challenges this year. I feel like we've gotten a lot of good Snatch games. Philippines season 3 was a knockout, absolutely. And this Snatch game, it was like the thing where I kind of took a second to adjust to it, but then I kind of realized like, oh, they're all for the most part really going for it. Of course, Le Coco doing Anna locking, and to her credit, as Anna locking pointed out on the runway, it wasn't just ovas and finger snaps there. There was actually dimension. She cried at the drop of a hat, which was of course very, very funny. It was really, really good. Obviously, we may not know some of these references here. I forgot to do my whole preamble at the start, talking about how you know, all drag is valid. We may not understand every reference, and that's okay. Please correct us in the email. And of course, not every queen is great at Drag Race, and that's okay. We celebrate them all the same. But that being said, for a queen that you, I think, have been a fan of, and I have been less of a fan of, though, it's one of those things where sometimes you just have to acknowledge the truth. Mariana, as the judge, Dr. Polo, knocked it out of the goddamn park. Absolutely incredible. The way that she did the makeup with these just fine, almost cartoonish like lines on here, like she just had this presence to her, which even like in the girl group challenge, it's like she was present there, but she just dominated in such a specific fashion over here too. And speaking of Angelita being the villain over here, at one point she's like, I'm just here trying to, like do my thing, but no one's matching my energy, no one's coming to my level. I have, Nang coming over here. This is like a romper room fuckery no moment all over again. It's
Yeah.
just like, sorry that you don't know how to play Snatch Game. Like it's hard to have sympathy for her really at any point in this episode. It's not a great look.
It was not a great look, and also in her boy mode, I think she's also a professional actor, and
Mhm.
I think I was surprised that with her experience at her age, she did not realize you have to also engage. You can't just expect them to engage with you, and she tried from what we saw. And by the way, this is a really long Snatch Game. Like this was
Yeah.
like 22 minutes right
Six
maybe.
questions, maybe eight. I
Yeah.
can't remember. Like it was
Um,
they crammed a lot in. Yeah.
they kept most of it in, I think. I don't think that they did it like an hour and like put 10 minutes or 5 minutes in. I did think she like sort of pulled herself back, and that sometimes you got to say it's on you. And she sort of did the next day in the workroom, but during the Snatch Game, I did think Mariana was so good. And we talked about this last week in the first episode that listen, we're not always going to get the cultural references. And I
Mhm.
did not get the references for the male character that La Nina was playing, which I'll talk about in a second. But I did think that when you can laugh at something and see how funny it is just in
From the characterization.
performance and from the characterization and from the subtitles, that's incredible. Like,
Right.
and and by the way, there were like 5 of them on this panel that were doing really great stuff. She was doing great stuff. Chloe was doing really great stuff. I didn't get the Vampiricians character that
Yeah,
they loved.
Mario Vasquezo, yeah, whoever
Yeah,
that was, yeah.
that was
That was
definitely a
definitely a
very
reference that was lost on us Westerners.
but even Mega Yellow's Tamara was very funny. And the Anna locking, that Lococo did was smart and funny and really good. But I thought it was a really great Snatch Game. And the other thing is you can't hide genuine reaction from the judges or Supreme. And they
Mhm.
were in hysterics at times. That's not fake. And that's not like, Ross or, Michelle trying to make something seem funnier than it is.
With the
And
fake laugh, right? Yeah.
yeah, they were going crazy. And then on the panel, the Javis even said to Mariana that I was bursting over. I was almost on the floor. That's how funny you were. So
Right.
that tells you how great it was.
Yeah. And for me, it's that kind of thing where that moment when Chloe Vitu, when she had the dildo on her panel desk, and then it stuck, the suction cup stuck, and then she tried pulling it off, and it just kept not pulling off. Like, that was so unintentional, but in character and in the moment. And that's universal comedy, let's be real.
Yes.
That is your penis cake from Dick Waffle right there, let me tell you.
And by the way, you want to talk about some A plus television production? There is a shot, they cut to a side shot of the panel. So it's not facing, it's a side shot where she's holding up the dildo and it is stretched out. And you see Supreme at the end of the shot, at the end of the table, literally like eyes bugged out. Like that is premiere television. That is international Emmy nominated worth television. That's what I'm talking about.
It's gonna win something, I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna win a Goya.
Like
Anyway, it's just a fantastic thing overall. Then of course we come down to a runway. We come down to a rural runway, which is an interesting prompt. And to be fair, and I think we mentioned this last week too, the España girls are delivering all-star level looks pretty much across the board.
I thought that this runway was literally the Spania girls or producers prompting them to be like, wait, France, Mexico, you oh no, we are the supreme. We are going to show you. There was one okay look in this runway. Maggie Yellow's was okay, like
Yeah.
fine
The
in any other
pants were
season.
weird. Yes.
Yeah, but it wasn't god awful. It wasn't terrible. And then there are how Chloe with the bread dress of real bread and like the wheat
Like
thing
this
behind
is this,
her
yeah, headpiece panel behind
headpiece
her. Yeah.
was safe. Like that just tells you they were at such a high level in this episode.
100%. It was honestly that may have been my the biggest stunner for me. Very close second was Miss Christo's beehive look when she came out here. I was just the shape of it was just something I've just never seen before. It was such an incredible silhouette with this giant circular hive head. Which was great, and also I'm just gonna say Mariana Starr's brown cow skinning. That's
Yes.
just that's truly what happened on there. It was a wonderful moment. It just I really felt like everyone really got a chance to actually shine on there. Even Lococo, who is speaking of villains of the season, someone who doesn't seem to get along with a lot of people. Very funny this week, and then her weird egg basket head look, and this
Yeah.
intricate wheat lattice thing that she had going on. Just really, really good stuff all around.
It like you're like literally Anna was running out of like superlatives to say as she went down to not just say it's fashion, fashion, fashion. Like she was trying, you could tell like, wait, she has to come up with something else to say how great this is.
Right.
I but also I just not to get off the runway. I did think of one of the interesting things about this episode that was like they took a little turn on Lococo in the edit. Not that
Mm-hmm.
Lococo isn't maybe perhaps getting more comfortable, just getting a little more of a positive edit. I thought this episode. It's not
Yeah.
as stark and mean. It's opening up a little bit. You know, I'm not saying it's a winner's edit, but I'm not saying it
Well,
feels like
and
a
the thing
winner's
is that
edit.
like she's always been the kind of person where like, villains have always have a different preference with certain fan bases. There are some people
Yeah.
that are just gonna stand the assholes, the cookie cunties of the world, like all the way straight through. But it's the kind of thing where there's a bit of a softening on here because especially during the lip sync that happened, she's like, I wouldn't mind if both of them stayed. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
something that was said in earnest or whatnot, or to save face, but it still felt genuine in the moment. So,
Yeah.
credit to that there. But it's the kind of thing where Lococo is frustrating to me because it's one of those things where like as a personality, as someone who is dissed other people so openly before, it's not someone that I personally necessarily can get behind, but at the same time she's undeniably talented. And this week
Yeah.
her runways have always been like top 2 top 3 almost week over week, and the Snatch Game really also kind of sealed it for me. It's just like even if she's sometimes a little bit rubs against the skin, it's always still a very high class quality queen. And again, that's the point of the show, queens of all different types coming over here. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. I honestly, I think we talked about it last week. I kind of felt like Angelita was getting a bit more of a winner's edit, but now she's lip synced 2 times in a row. So I don't know if that's going to be happening anymore. Truly.
I thought the really interesting about the bottom two this week, Miss Christo, who by the way is a stunning fashion queen, and they pigeonholed her a little bit when she walked off. Like they were like, "You'll be great on runways and magazine covers," and I'm like, "Oof!" Like I don't know if she wants to hear that, but I did think these were two of the more sort of negative queens of the group, and I thought it was interesting that
Mm-hmm.
but they both deserve to be in the bottom. But I don't listen. You want all queens to say, but somebody's got to go. I am slightly wondering if and when they leave, if they do. Miss Christo definitely would. Will things get a little more positive in the workroom? Will the other queens be slightly in a better mood? And maybe that's affecting queens like Lococo, who when if the vibes are so tense and they start
Mm-hmm.
to like open up, sort of like we were talking about with Global, maybe it makes things more positive moving forward.
Absolutely. And yeah, overall, again, I think another good episode. I do think this is shaping up to be a very good season, but I will
Mm,
point out something over here is that we've talked about before how every season has different producers, and all the producers are trying to do their own things to innovate and stuff on here.
mm.
Some stuff really works, like with Canada when they have the Golden Beaver. There's a bottom 3, but the winner gets to choose which 2 are lip syncing. Stuff like that, I think is really cool. It's almost all stars, even not really, and it's a fun new social element to the game. And then here they have the Queen candy thing, which is the thing where they can open it within the first 10 seconds and swap out with the bottom 3. It's one of those things where it sounds good on paper, but we are 5 episodes in now, and no one has even attempted to use it so far. It feels like the US season 16, they had immunity potions, which amounted to bupkis. It was
Yeah.
just a useless gesture. Again, I don't mind them experimenting, but it doesn't feel like it adds anything into the.
I would have preferred the chocolate bar to
Yeah,
this queen thing. I do think, listen, they can't control it. Like it is what it is. In theory, they can't control it. And I think it will be absolutely hilarious if they get to the end of the season and there's one queen who's never ever been in the bottom and they had the queen. But I think I also heard, did they say at the beginning they could give it to another queen, right? Can't they
they.
like give?
I think they could gift it to another queen, but also if they kept it all the way to the finale and they had the queen, then they would get like a tip of like 2,500 euros or something like that
Oh, well,
to
then they should.
turn it in if
Well,
they've
that's
never used it.
bad television. You don't want them to keep it.
Right.
That was a
And that's why no one's been using it so far because like everyone so far has been confident enough to be like I can win the lip sync. And to be fair, I
yeah,
thought Miss Christo and Angelita both did a pretty good job on this lip sync. Actually, I thought Miss Christo was taking it initially, and then I think Angelita
yeah.
really came through in the back half when she pulled out the list, and it was like, yeah.
I thought the list choice could have gone wrong, and
Hmm.
I didn't know how to interpret it at first. But they clearly wanted most people to think by how they edited it, like, oh, that's so amazing. She did. Like they in the room, it worked.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Also, I just don't like Angelina, so I'm like, go home. But
Yeah.
I did think I almost thought I will say this. If anyone pays attention to the number of eliminations and the number of episodes in a season, in theory, there is a double Shantae save in this season. And in theory, it could have been this episode, and they chose not to. So
Yes.
we've got time. We've got 5 left. There's still time for one more. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I think we all talked about our feelings about who we
Yep.
feel about Global All Stars on here. For Espana, I feel like it changes week over week, especially because certain queens get eliminated here. At this point, who do you want to win?
Well, I really love Nina, and I'm sort of sad for her that she was low. So I'm hoping she can sort of make a comeback. But
It felt like one of those weird lows, which, by the way, when we get to UK, we'll talk about weird low placements in
yes,
just a minute. Yeah.
I didn't think that I'm sort of I like Chloe. I don't think she can win, but I actually feel like Lococo is like the there's something about Lococo that is telling me Spain winner, sophisticated. And she's like what the Javis and Anna like.
Yeah.
She's sophisticated. She is stylish. She is artistically forward. They've only had out of the 3 winner. I mean, we're not going to count All Stars, but out of the 3 winners before, there was only one sort of like Pythia and Carmen are very much in that mold. Uh, Susan, what was her name? Who won season 2?
Sharon.
Sharon. Sharon was like an old school legendish type queen who won. And
Right.
and I feel like Lococo is very much in that Spain mold of she appeals like she'll be super popular, she will do fashion, she'll do 20 million things and grow the brand. And I don't know if I see that with the other ones. I'm curious what they decide to do. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
I would say so. I do think they're a little bit overdue for a comedy winner though, so I do like La Nina or I mean again, Chloe is growing on me a lot so far this season here. So I think low key, I think I'm still team Mega Yellow. I don't think there's actually a shot on there, but like at this point I could see her in the finale. She's certainly showing up enough because it was interesting too when they dismissed her from the runway to be like, you were this close to being in the top, but
Yeah.
that runway site that kind of open feedback, I actually love when judges do that too, because the queens
Yeah.
can actually improve. But also low key, I don't think I've really disagreed with any of the winners from Espana so far.
I can't remember. I just wasn't a big Sharon fan. She's like
Yeah.
Sharon
It was
Spanky,
that and
like just not
Estrella
my thing.
Extravaganza in the top two, so it was, like it was the best of the options that were left, certainly.
Yeah.
But like Carmen is actually one of my all-time favorite queens to ever win the franchise, if I'm being real. Check out
Our Lord
season
and
one,
Savior.
y'all.
Yes, our Lord and Savior, Carmen Farala. I love
Yeah.
her. She's the best.
All right. Well, hey, we're getting into it. We're halfway
Yeah.
through right now. And so we are now going to fly all the way over to the UK for what happens to be Girl Group Week, a very, very exciting week altogether. Uh, very interesting vibes, I will say, starting into this episode. Some people clearly think Kyran Thrax is a little bit pompous with her 2 wins so far, but I gotta be honest, how the fuck does she not win the season at this point? Like, this is one of those things where got to be honest, like in the actual edit of the episode, it's the kind of thing where you don't want to necessarily see a queen dominate. You don't necessarily want to
Yeah.
have. Uh, we keep talking about her Christian Peralta situation where it's just like, oh, she wins again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like in this challenge, in the girl group challenge, she did great. Like I can't deny that she had stage presence on there. It was cool. I like what it's kind of interesting when production splits the groups into stuff that they decide all themselves. But we had a Dracula's Child versus the Things and a challenge where instead of the Christmas #1, they're going for the Halloween #1
Mhm.
of the song Dead or Alive, which is actually kind of a
Mhm.
bop. I'm gonna be honest. It was pretty good. But the highlight of the episode for me, hands down, was after the Queen split into their groups, after they do their little bit of smack talk and everything, getting to record with Alexandra Burke from X Factor. This is a star in the UK who just has such amazing energy and presence. She was absolutely a highlight of the episode for me.
Wait, can we talk about how does she not know what a twink was?
That is stunning to me. I
Like,
do not know.
girl,
She
you
certainly
live in
knows now.
London.
She certainly
She
knows
has
now.
she has
Also,
gay makeup artists. Like, what's going on? Like, I was like, well, how did she not know? And they also seemed shocked that she didn't know. It was very weird.
right. I think she presents a certain innocence to her as well, but then again,
Oh,
that's it was in the same room when Zahira said, "Let me come in you" as an ad lib. So, certainly certain things that happen. I of course immediately went back to UK season 1 when Blue was recording her ad libs and said, "Despunk my balls." Just truly the most unhinged moments come out of the recording booth. Let me tell you, it's a
absolutely.
good time. Anyone just when they were recording, was there anyone that stood out to you? Anyone that was intriguing or
No, I mean, I didn't. I thought the episode made it very clear who the bottoms potentially could be. I I thought that they did a really good job of teasing that Kiki might win. And she didn't. She didn't, but she still did great. I and Relisa had her moment, and I thought that they were telegraphing also from the way that, oh, it's between Relisa and Kiki, and then sort of Kyran like sort of surprised at the end. Wait, did I say her name wrong? Am I
is it
saying it wrong?
Kyran? Yeah.
Kyran, thank you.
There's a lot of queens to
Sorry,
keep
there's a
track of. They're
lot of
doing
names
four
we got to keep
franchises
track
at
of.
once. Yeah.
But I did think that it was like, okay, I thought the really interesting thing about this episode was considering how much she's been the villain of the season, is Chanel sort of got quiet a little bit this episode. And I couldn't tell if it was her being realizing that she needed to be more quiet, or someone giving her a heads up that she'd been so negative, or maybe if it was starting to get to her. She sort of reminded me this episode of a queen who's like not overwhelmed, but like, I don't think I can win this. I don't know if I can give this energy anymore. And she was great in the challenge, but just in the
Absolutely.
confessionals and in the workroom, I was like, oh wait, something's going here. And then also a queen I thought was going to go home quite early. Charity is becoming like the one of the talking heads of the season. And
Right.
I feel like they're going to keep her as long as possible because she's so different from the rest of them, and sort of like every time she says something it's sort of upbeat and like positive-ish. So I'm curious to see how long Char survives now.
Yeah, which brings up to an interesting point too, because when we talked about the girl group challenge, it was I agree with the judges. It was very tight. There wasn't a group that won. It
Mm.
was broke with tradition. Instead of 6 girls getting a badge all at once, it was only one queen that was going to win.
And you
And
know
it
who
was
loved that? You know who loved that? Cheryl Hole loved that. She was like, don't give those queens a badge when they don't deserve it. Sorry, go ahead.
exactly. I agree. But it was interesting too because the tops of the week were Relecia, Kiki, and Kyran. And then the lows were Zahira, which I agree with, Lil, who also was very staid on stage, and Marmalade, who I did not agree with
No.
ultimately. I thought she did a great job in the performance. I thought her butterfly runway was pretty incredible. But I wanted to highlight it there because, quite frankly, the runway and with what she was giving in the challenge, which I think was serviceable, I did think Charity should have been in that spot, if I'm being fully honest, in the bottom three.
Charity should have been low. She shouldn't have been in the bottom two. But like
Agree.
I definitely would have put her low. I didn't understand Marmalade. I
Marmalade didn't understand why she was there either, for the record. Yeah.
uh, I did think this was definitely an example of critiques from the judges where you're like, okay, because I thought Zahira was fine. I thought Zahira was safe. I did not understand why Zahira was even in the bottom, and I watched it twice. But I do think that we are not in the room sometimes, and
Right.
how something looks on the camera, it's not how it necessarily looks from the stage. The stage is not that far away, but there's also a different energy, and maybe we just couldn't tell that there was an awkwardness to Zahara that 100% come on screen. Also, it was super close. I didn't think anyone besides Lil was like
doing
terrible.
bad, right?
No,
And
I
I
thought
think
they were all like pretty, and I thought the runways also were part of it, like too. Although
absolutely.
Charity's runway was like bad, like it was just like a spider costume. Like
It was a
anyway,
bug thing with little things on her face. It wasn't impressive though. That's
yeah,
that's the thing. Because sometimes you see looks that are good, but then it's just like they don't stick with you too. And again, it's also, as we know with television production, with the runways, they always film them twice. I think with some of the performances, they filmed them twice as
yeah.
well. And typically you're gonna go with the edit where someone did worse. Because that just makes better television, or that's where a critique can be based off of, depending.
And to be honest, I'm gonna judge from Lil's reaction. I don't think she thought she was good in either of the performances. Like I'm just gonna, and I like Lil. It's no shade on her, but when they react that way, it's genuine, and they're like, "Oh no, I know I was bad." Like they know.
Yeah, and I think, and I kind of love it when they are self-effacing, like, and because when Marmalade was confused, it's like I don't think I'll be lip syncing, but I will look over the lyrics just a little bit. Like, yep, that's definitely the smart move. We have seemed
Yes.
crazier in that moment there.
But before
We
we get
also
to oh wait, go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just say before we maybe talk about who won and who lost. I do have to say again, and I do not want to sound like a broken record. And as long as the season goes on, I may keep doing it. But God damn it, UK Queens, this runway was bad. Like it was not good. When they're praising Marmalade's outfit, which was fine and like almost a costume,
Hmm.
whatever. And I'm sure it looked great in person. I just do not. And also, I would say the only great runway of this week I really thought was releases. Releases, that
Release,
was a
yeah,
beautiful gown.
unquestionably,
Um,
unquestionably.
and to be honest, you know what the perfect metaphor or example of what UK runways are is the clip that's been a little bit on social media where Kyran Thrax comes down in the midsummer jacket and they're like, "Oh, it's a reveal! It's a reveal! What is it?" And then she takes it off, and Rue goes, "Oh, it's a
Yeah,
catsuit."
that's
Like that is UK runway to a T, and I just
8,000%.
can't. And I love their drag. I think they are perhaps the most consistent comedy queens of the entire world.
Hmm.
And I think they are great hosts, and I think many of them are great singers. And UK drag is definitely different than other drag rest of the world. But this is killing me. Like everything is an Alexander McQueen reference, or no,
Oh, Vivian
or
Westwood. Everything's
Vivian
Vivian Westwood.
Westwood, and that's fine. I don't. They need to fix this. I don't
Yeah,
know how they
it's
do it. They have to fix it.
I mean, where do we start? We have, I mean, I didn't mind Sahira's pink flower vase dress thing. They did call out the shape a little bit, which I kind of understand. Chanel's, I don't know what, if for the Call Me Mother Nature runway, she was kind of a Grecian statue
It
with
was
some
bad.
gold leaf. It was so underwhelming over there. Again, I kind of give credit for Kyran Thrax because I think she kind of knew it was camp more
Oh,
than anything else. So like
yeah.
it wasn't necessarily fashion. She played with the judges. It was a fun moment. I dug it. It kind of reminded me, of course, when River Medway, when she of course did the pointing thing on the first episode there, and they're just like, I don't know what that is. Like it's just when they have fun. It's great. We had two volcano looks. I think I've determined that Octavia is a Austin Powers mask that has come to life. And it's the thing where it's like Octavia, she has such youthful energy. She has
But
such youthful.
also, how many we forget? Forget she's on the season. Like I
Right.
literally keep forgetting she's there.
Yeah, it's just like this pure absolute confidence that radiates, and then she's just there. And especially when she had a volcano look, and then Lavoie had an extremely similar one, and neither of them were great. Like it's just kind of, it's just disappointing on here. So we'll see what happens. Lil's albino snake, I thought had a little bit more effort to it. There just was no shape, so it was interesting.
But also like Lavoie thinking that she's wearing fashion. Girl, you are wearing a. Don't even. I can't. I just Lavoie. She's killing. It's just killing me. I just. Oh, like
She's gonna win
but
at some point. She hasn't
oh
yet.
yeah,
Like I think
She
that's
was,
we
by the
we
way,
know how the narrative of the season is going. But again,
like
it's the
some
kind of
people.
thing too where she's a little bit pompous, but
Yeah.
with the number of wins and ups that she's had, I do not know how Kyran doesn't win this season at this point. I could be wrong. There could be a whole huge spoiler or upset that happens on here, but it's just very clearly the edit is favoring her, and she's
Yeah, it
doing
feels like
good.
a Simone run. It feels very like Simone. Yeah.
Absolutely. She'll probably have to lip sync at some point. She'll probably win it. We kind of know how it goes. With that said, who do you want to win?
Oh, well, we should talk first really quickly about the bottom too.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're
No, 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 no.
jumping over the major things.
And there was one thing I wanted to say is I did actually think Kiki was better in the challenge than Kyran, but her outfit was just not. At least it was. They were both not great, but hers was really like that was like almost like a design challenge look a little bit like
Yes. It was
and
like trying to do the Beyonce reference, but kind of not pulling it off completely.
yes.
Yeah.
I thought that in the lip sync, it was closer than I thought it would be,
Lil versus
and
Zahira. Yep.
Zahira, and I just thought Zahira can't emote as a lip syncer, and I thought Lily, it helps to have that big head, those big lips, and that big mouth. It's genetics half part partially, and it makes you just project. And she could just turn around and dance a little bit and shake her hips, and it worked. And you were like, oh no, Lil won. Like it's easy.
I always think about I think it was Katya talking about Candy Muse during some lip syncs, talking about how she just genuinely doesn't have the same access to certain emotions in her face that other queens necessarily do. Some queens are
Yeah.
extremely expressive. Some queens just, have a little bit more of a still face or a resting face that just doesn't have that same energy on there. And you can kind of see that. Like Lil's face is unmistakable. You can't pull away from it there. And also she has already won a lip sync literally
Yeah.
just fairly recently. So it's very clear that she has a talent to do it there. You don't have to be the splits performer to pull it off, and I think she did well. I think Zahira did just a little bit too much. I still thought she did pretty good though, but unfortunately I just didn't see her lasting very long in the season,
No.
which is
And also this was just a bad challenge for her. I think she's like more of a comedy queen, maybe design queen.
absolutely.
Anyway.
And she was in the edit a lot too. She was cackling and howling over everything there. So I think she definitely had her time to shine, which was lovely. We also briefly have to talk about Lavoie's mission to get to know Lil better. And
Oh.
then them talking about female hyenas with their fake penises. Just truly just one of those moments that will last forever in workroom history. Just
I,
wild and
I
wonderful and real.
I thought actually that moment was I felt like that was a very smart moment from Lavoie. That week I was like, oh, she's gonna make the workroom her talk show. She's gonna like
Mhm.
make this like, oh, none of these other queens are taking the lead. I'm gonna and I watch every week, she's gonna be the one who's like spurring conversation, which is also a great strategy so they keep you around.
Mm-hmm. And hey, what do you know? Next week happens to be the Graham Norton Show Talk Show Challenge. Something tells me she'll do very well. I don't know why.
Something. Who
Exactly.
knows?
Cool. So anyway, sad. Zahira leaves. I'll be honest. She's certainly a little pompous, and other people pointed it out because also the judging on the runway when they mentioned, by the way, Kyran, when you were in your group, everyone else felt like a photocopy of you. And it's just like, oh, we're just gonna let that happen and slide. And the fact that Kyran didn't really dismiss anything from it in the workroom was a little upsetting too, because like that's not great to hear if you're in the other group. Like, yes, she dominated the challenge, but it still kind of was weirdly dismissive in a way that most critiques usually are not.
I am very much hoping that as the season, when they shot this over a month or 5 weeks or 6 weeks,
Yeah.
that Kyran quickly realized I do not want a Violet Chachki edit and I need to start being nicer. So I'm
Yes.
hoping that as we continue through the season, Kyran gets a little self-awareness, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, she's giving them what they want, which helps as they go
Absolutely.
forward.
And she's still my pick to win, if I'm being
Yeah,
fully honest. Like I still like her a lot. She's clearly very, very talented.
she's already a better winner to me than Ginger or Crystal Versace. So I'm not gonna.
And listen, I say that as I know people who stand Crystal Versace the house down. I do not personally, but again, we
I
respect
get it.
all wonderful opinions about the Drag
Yes.
Race
Oh,
universe.
yes. Exactly. There. And you know what? Another thing too. We want them to get money. We want them to get paid. We want to have good lives. We're just giving our opinions on drag.
Absolutely. So, with that said, we have one final franchise to talk about and give our opinions on, which is actually really thrilling that it's happening. Thailand Season 3, Episode 1. The one thing to point out about this, and I think this is one of I have a lot to say about this episode, and I think you do too as well for a
Mm,
variety of reasons. But the biggest thing is that the show, Thailand was kind of the unofficial spin-off that happened for a while, like semi-official, kind of in the
hmm
realm a little bit, like it was certainly on some channels there. But it was initially hosted by Pangina and Art Araya, and now it's just hosted entirely by Pangina. The season 2 aired in 2019. So as much as COVID still happened on here, the Ru effect, the Ruification that happens with certain Drag Race franchises when they hit regions, took effect. So there's been 5 years for an actual scene to build
mm.
up in its wake. So it's the kind of thing where my expectations going into this were like, okay, if the show's already had 2 seasons and now this is the first full official WoW produced here we go season on here, um, I was a little surprised by how not thrilling it was, if I'm being honest.
I um I don't want to say I was shocked. I was I was very surprised, and I there was there it was I'm trying to put it in the context of one season that was very hard for me to get into, which was Drag Race Brazil, which had two very rough initial episodes
Yes,
and then
yes.
got much better as it went along. So I am hoping we are sort of in that phase of the show. They brought people over from Thailand. They're shooting this, if you can't tell, they're shooting this on modified Philippine sets, and they shot it in the Philippines. And they don't have the same budget, and but they've got queens who are there who are in theory talented, but they also cast a queen who lives in well, actually now she lives in Vegas. I think at the time she might have lived in San Francisco, but she was born in Thailand. She's now an American resident. And oh wait, I'm gonna forget her name. um oh shoot, we have to look it up. uh but
No, I'm
anyway,
sorry. It was, yeah, Siam Pushi.
yes, and also the tallest queen in the cast, and
By far.
by far, um, and she's already, and they don't know who she is when she comes in, and she's still more polished than some of the queens who are more experienced who have come from Thailand, and it was sort of shocking. I there are so many things you can start with. There's three buckets of it in mind. One is I don't understand why they cast this group of queens. They
Mhm.
feels like there's only two or three of them who could legit ever win. And it also feels like just crown Frankie now. Like what, why give it to
My
anybody else?
God.
She's heads and above. She would have to like break her leg to not win the season. I'm legit serious. I don't know anyone else who could. um Shotgun literally is one of the, at least visually interesting, and then tells everyone they've only been doing drag for less than a year. And actually, I think they were doing cosplay, but they hadn't really done. I went on their Insta and did like some
Drag proper,
fishing. I think they were
right, yeah.
doing cosplay and hadn't done. And so the queens are like, "What's going on here?" I was actually talking to a friend, and we were like, "Well, maybe they should have brought back some of the like eliminated queens from season 1 or 2 to like, give them a second chance and make it a stronger cast." I'm just confused on why they picked these queens. And then the production itself was strange. So in the workroom, and this is getting really knee deep, as someone
What
who
we're
comes
here
from
for,
film background
Worldwide
in
T, let me tell
television,
you.
yeah, you could tell like they were shooting it different. I actually liked how they were shooting the workroom better than how they were shooting it in the Philippines. They were using a lot more handheld camera. They
Mhm.
were doing different angles. It felt actually slightly more intimate than Philippines. Philippines always feels like they're really far away and they're always showing like almost a wide shot. They go in close when they're doing like makeup and stuff, but they don't do a lot of like twofers. And I
Right.
was like, and this was not that at all. I was like, oh wow, we hadn't gotten to the main stage, and I was like, oh, they must have brought camera people over from Thailand. Because if people may be unaware of this, when they were doing the Mexican, Brazil, and German seasons, they brought over camera people and production people from those countries to work with the people in Colombia to give it its own to give it its own sort of look,
That's
and
cool.
to try to make it as differentiation as possible, which is one of the reasons why the Brazil season started off so rough. Anyway, so there's that, and then they go to the main stage, and I'm like, nope, Philippines. They're literally doing the same weird shot when Pangina Lee like says, "May the best queen win," and it's awkward and it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, it just felt like so contrasty. And then Pangina, who I love as a queen. I love her.
Absolutely.
She's so talented. She's great on her Wow Present show, Tai
Tongue
T,
tied.
Tongue
Yeah.
Tied, sorry. And she is charismatic and can host and do all this. She didn't feel like a good, she felt like, I don't know if tentative is the right word, but it didn't feel like it was working. And part of it was because I did not understand why she almost completely spoke in English when none of the other contestants were speaking in English. So in the Philippines, it sort of works because they go back and forth, and Mama Pao will speak a little bit English, but she'll also speak Filipino
Yeah.
or Tagalog, right?
Tagalog. Yeah.
Tagalog. And
I mean,
then
there's several
they,
accents there, but Tagalog's the
sure.
primary one. Yeah.
And then the Philippine queens go back and forth in what they say. And there's other seasons like that. Holland is very much a season where they like go back and forth between English and Dutch.
Mhm.
And and as the episode went on, it became, at least to me, like more and more like it felt like she was in another show. I started thinking like, wait, are they cutting this for us? Like, but they're not. It's the same for everybody. And then I was like, is she concerned about her brand? Is she like, because I'm known in the UK and America, I need to do everything in English? And then you do have the panel, and Art has like one line sort of like that she says as a joke in English,
Mhm.
but they're not even going like back and forth between, it all felt awkward. And
Right.
then to make matters worse, the last part of it, and I will stop my ramble, is the talent show was a mess. Like
It
there
was
was,
bad.
it was really bad. And
It
at
was
least they showed,
shockingly bad. Yeah.
and at least they showed the judges realizing it was bad. And thank God, at least they didn't try to fake it. But you're sort of like, okay, you want people to keep watching after this episode. And I give Pangina credit. The one thing she did do is she called out the queens, saying this is not a look that's, to two queens, that this is not a look that you should be wearing on the a drag race runway.
Yeah.
They are in the Philippines. They cannot go home and get new clothes. Like uh, I don't, as someone who just knows they're shooting it there, I don't have hope that they can
Whip
elevate their
something together in the
runways.
hotel room necessarily to
No.
outshine it. Right. And it's also just, and not to get like, we will get into the queens in just a moment here,
Yeah.
but also, what the fuck happened with the mics? Because on the main stage, it seems like either Pangina or the other like judging panel mics went out, so they had to use ambient room noise that they had to pump up. It
Mm-hmm.
was awkward because the queens you could hear perfectly, and then on the judging panel you have this backwash of just like where the audio, and it's just like, and especially with Pangina, given how deep she is with WoW, she couldn't do any ADR on anything. Like it was just weird that a problem was clearly discovered, and then we have not great audio for a not great talent show, and to be frankly honest, a not great run of looks. It just feels
I,
weirdly amateur hour in a way that some of the other franchises aren't. And again, to your credit, Brazil didn't start out great and ended up fantastically. I did not like Dudu Bertolini, and I grew to love that wackadoo of a man, let me assure you. I'll take him over Oscar Madrazo any day of the week. But the thing is that it was just weird because I just didn't foreseen that where Drag Race had happened 5 years ago so prominently over there, especially for Pangina, who has delivered next level looks and performances as well as a representative of what Thai drag could be.
yeah.
It just felt very meh. It felt very understandable. I will say, more than anything else, ZP, incredible entrance line. If you can see me, you can pee on me. Forever. Put it in the history books. That is iconic behavior right there. But it was just so obviously it was the Frankie Wonka show from the get. Came in dressed as a cat with full cat makeup, which is there, and you kind of knew something was wrong when the mini challenge is the photo shoot, which is fantastic. But then the photographer that they have, Surachai, I'm not going to get the last name correct, but
Yeah.
long story short, this guy dressed up as a full painted tea set with hair swooping into a tea. Like, this dude, just on this casual look, is outpacing everyone else there. Like, it was a little bit awkward too, because this guy showed up to work. I don't know what happened to everyone else. Like, it was just odd. I will say also,
Oh,
Xian Prusi, her entrance look, this like American white diamond showgirl look with this opulent hat,
oh, stunning.
was really really good too. And I also it was a much more minimal look, but Gigi Ferocious, she had this very nice arced kind of wig thing that was happening with just basically next to nothing naked bodysuit kind of thing. I actually kind of liked it. I thought it did a little bit for me, but Yeah, for a show where we went into the photo shoot and then we went into this talent show. Again, I think it's the worst talent show I've ever seen
But
on
wait,
Drag
that
Race.
that was so that was like such a juxtaposition because you do this mini challenge and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like photographers like dressed up and like this is gonna be a fun. Like I was like I had slight hope. I was like, oh, and then I turn and like they're shooting in a corner of a like I don't know where they are. It's not on a.
Right.
There's no sound stage available. Like, are they in a cleaning room? Like, I don't. It was so compact and
It was so
weird.
compact. It was so short.
I
Some queens refused to even get in the giant
Yep.
drink that behind them because like I don't want to ruin my outfit. I'm like, girl, you're on TV right now. This is forever. The outfit can be cleaned. Like
I
it was just this weird energy that was going on too. So it's one of those things where again, I think in our honest opinions there we've seen seasons start out rough and grow into something
Yep.
on here. So I am optimistic on here. I will say I was a little bit also confused about why the queens always said their government name first before they actually introduced their drag name. I thought that
Oh.
was an interesting choice. It didn't happen every
Huh.
time, but like 80% of the queens said their real names. And then speaking of one of the judging panels, Gus Setachai is introduced and is listed as Shaw, the Diary of Tootsies. And that is her name. And I guess she wrote a show that is called Shaw, the Diary of Tootsies on here. And that's just her name now, at least according to the Drag Race judging panel. So there was a lot to unpack on there culturally. And I'm sure if anyone has any context to fill
Please.
us in, worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com, please do so. But
I guess the one other thing it made me think about, and I hesitate to say this before we watch more episodes,
yes.
is I feel as though we may have been I feel like global fans, whether they're in Europe or the US or South America, may have too high expectations for some of these other potential Asian seasons because the Philippines is so good. The Philippines has had a history of drag that is much longer than
Hmm.
many of these other countries. And it's also a gigantic, it's over 100 million people. And it does give me, or it's close to 100, I think. It also, so the rumor, there's a rumor that Japan might get a season. There's not that much drag in Japan, but it's a
Right.
country of 125 million people. So in theory, you could get a good at least first season and then it spurs from there. But some of the ideas that they've taught me, there's wild rumors of like, you know, or that people from Taiwan have looked into doing a season, and you're just like, and I'm just like, wait, I don't know, like let's slow our horses while before we get a little too rough here. And,
Right.
and I will say the first season of Philippines, they had the same audio issues
Hmm.
and they fixed it by the end and by season two. Strange that it would happen with almost probably the same crew in this event. But
Hmm.
I don't, but is the budget so low that they're rushing? Like they don't have as much time to shoot some of these episodes? I'm really concerned. And I know that WoW is really excited about it. And um I they've invested in it and they did a whole press day in Thailand. They want it to be big. So I'm hoping it gets better. But even when the stands online are like, oh wow, like it was not well received, and its reputation of what it was before in that previous incarnation may have hurt it a little bit. I feel like if we never had those two seasons before and they just gave Panjana a Drag Race Thailand show, maybe people would have been like, oh, okay, this is a
Right.
little interesting. But I think in this context, it's a little like, whoa.
Right, because you also in the previous season you have Bunny Bee Fly, you have Bandit, you have queens lighting their dresses on fire on a much larger stage. Like there was a lot that was going on that was interesting here. So, and for the record too, very infamously, UK season 3 was filmed in 10 days. The queens are happy to tell
No, it
you about
wasn't.
it.
That's a
What?
lie.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
lie. You know
That's
that's a lie. That's
Well, it
not
does. I mean, I
true.
will say there are a couple episodes where it does look like they filmed both days
That
in one, which were a little bit rushed. But
true,
yeah, I'm
but
not sure if they've always allowed that or
that's
what
not
happened.
true.
Okay,
That is
what's the
William.
T? What's the worldwide
No, no,
T?
no. Everyone knows what this is. This was a queen joking to Willem, and Willem ran with it. And then the other queens were like, "You really believe this? You really believe we shot this episode in 10 days?" No, they may have shot it in like 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks. Also, full disclosure, when they do US seasons, it's 6 weeks. It's like
Right.
it's a long time. Even for All Stars too. And France actually shoots, they sometimes shoot 4 to 5 weeks. Sometimes they do a 10 episode season in 3 weeks, depending on the country. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know how quickly they shot this, but
If the problem is that it feels quickly though, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And so, and for this talent show, is there anyone you want to talk about? Because obviously Frankie Wanga's nose routine, just out of nowhere, just incredible. That was the highlight, bar none.
So good. The judges loved it, thought it was great. I feel like wait, who was the other top this week with her?
Oh,
I'm trying to
the
remember.
tops this week we had were Frankie, Karamite, and Spicy Sunshine.
Who did the egg thing?
Oh,
Like
that
they
was
made
Karamite.
eggs. Oh, I thought that was good. I thought that was funny. Also, I did feel like we've now reached even the international queens trying to do the willow pill, like I'm going to like do a, or the Irene, like I'm going to teach you how to do do a cup of water, pour a glass of water sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not everybody can do it. And I think that some of them are stretching their abilities, but this worked. I thought it worked.
Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of saw an iteration of that with Short Gun's weird monkey mixing drinks in my boobs thing. It's, Senior Tadpoles Thailand. It is certainly a fascinating thing to happen, but nothing. I will tell you something about this. As much as we are being honest about our opinions about the season there,
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to load up Suram Pushi's talent show routine where she is a boxer that then gives a crew member a haircut. Because that is the talent, and I don't know what the fuck happened. And the judges clearly are unsure if it's over and if they should even clap. It is a genuine moment of I don't know what's happening. Stunning in every possible way. Iconic behavior. It was weird as hell. Truly.
I actually feel like the fan base was so like in trauma over this episode that somehow didn't become a thing online. Like I was like, oh, this might be a thing online. People might put this up like because it's so crazy. Nope. Like it's just so bad. People are like, I can't look at it again. Like it's yeah. I also will say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, speaking of bad, I wanted to jump into the runway, but if you had a tangent point.
No, I guess the one other thing is like I sort of had hope for Gigi Ferocious. She's a great name, and she came in the runway great. But her talent show, I was like, oh no, she thinks she's like a kiki vulgar dancer, and it's
she's
not,
a ballroom girl, but she's just kind of collapsed. It was like kind of like in a UK when Sahara's like, can you death drop, and then just body slam the floor. It was like, oh, she's dropping again. Oh, she's dropping again. Like,
but not in a good way. Like I was like, I'm hoping she's better as we go ahead.
Yeah. So hey, runway, World Wild Wet. Once again, just odd. Nani Safira had this weird attachment thing and the worst yellow wig I had ever seen in some time. Some girls just didn't have enough details on their stuff, and let's of course Sarasha Hot Sauce with the cum dump look, which was memorable. Certainly, I will say that.
I can't believe. I honestly can't believe that even WoW hasn't blurred it out. Like it's just, I'm like
it made it to air, baby, and she lip synced in it too. Truly, it was.
I feel like it could, if anyone was watching, it could cause an international incident. Like I just don't. I was like, whoa, they're gonna cancel all of us. They're gonna put us on prisons and camps like because of that look.
Well, and then you have Godlin showing up in a regular dress, pondering the orb, just randomly, just with a crystal ball there. Frankie Wonga again, windblown look that was actually quite wonderful and incredible. And to her credit, even though she was in the bottom, Siram Pushi with this water dragon look was actually pretty cool. It was a nice interpretation of it, but yeah, overall, and Short Gun's clamshell that kept falling down. It was rough going. It was a lot. Long story short, Frankie, Kara, and Spicy are in the top. Frankie should just win the season at this point because it is so clearly she's heads above the rest. Siam, Short Gun, Sarasha in the bottom. Short Gun and Sarasha Hot Sauce have to compete to a song by 2002 Ratchery. I love their names. And it's the first episode of season 3, so of course it's a double save.
It definitely was not a double save.
Yeah, it was a very kind gesture to the queens. I will say that much for certainly.
And part of me was like, wait, why do like that was the other thing about whoever produced this episode. Why not just do a top 2 for the win? Frankie would probably still have won. Why put them through this fake drama when you're not going to send one home? And they're not even close. Like Shotgun was eviscerated. And then you're like, you're also safe. Like what? The choices don't make sense to me. And then also, from my understanding, the what has made me more concerned is Art is not here for the whole season. Art is only here for 1 or 2 episodes. Art is not a permanent judge. That is my understanding. If I'm wrong, and she ends up being the whole time, that's great. But Art was the one where when she came into the workroom, or when she did come into the workroom, right? Am I wrong?
I
Or maybe she
don't.
didn't.
Yeah, I don't explicitly think she did. I
Oh,
could be
why
wrong.
did I think she did? But when she was on the panel, I was like, oh, this is why Art's so great. Let Art speak more. And
Right.
and she may not be here for a good chunk of the season. And I'm like, I'm worried.
Yeah. So either way, not the best start on here, but
No.
obviously it is Worldwide T. We are going to keep watching and we are going to keep encouraging the queens over there. I think I know the answer to this, but is there anyone out the gate that you want to win the season? Is there?
I want Frankie Wonga to just get one episode off because she's gonna win anyway. Like they could just be like, listen, go to the spa for the day. We're just gonna shoot an
Right.
episode. It's fine. You're still winning. You can just take a break. Don't let the crown weigh on your
Give
head
her the
too
immunity
heavy.
potion. Let's just lock that in right now at this point here. So
Yes.
just clearly out there. We'll see. I'm ready to be surprised. I still think there are some
Yes.
very interesting queens over there. I do want to see what else Siam Prushi has to do. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be an interesting season. And
Um,
hey, that's 4 seasons that we just covered in just a quick moment here, and we're not done because y'all, we still have another season right around the corner. Down Under season 4 starts November 1st, which
yep.
again, I think it is the problem child of all the international franchises. It is not of the highest quality standards on there, but especially with fashion. But I will say the fact that it is now hosted by Michelle and just with Reese Nichols on the thing, they didn't get any other additional panelists. I'm curious to see how it works out. I want to give it a shot. We're gonna give it an honest go. But yeah, that's a lot of seasons that we talked about for a long time. But hey,
And,
oh, go ahead.
and before the end of the year, Drag Race Canada's coming back too. Canada's Drag Race, sorry. Like
Oh,
we have one more before the end of the year. There will be no drop in it, only for the hardcore, only for the
yeah.
headstrong. Go, it does not end.
Worldwide T episodes are just going to keep getting longer, and y'all going to
Yes.
have to deal with that. That's okay.
Yes.
But hey, that said, we have a tradition that we do here, which is every week we are going to shout out a international girl, Rue girl or non-Rue girl otherwise. Greg, who do you have lined up for us this week?
It's funny we mentioned her earlier, but
Oh.
I my pick actually this week was Carmen Farala. Uh
Oh!
because if you've never watched Drag Race España season 1, you know what? It's a great season to watch. It's very good. It's it's in theory their best season. Although maybe this one triumphs at the end. But she is hands down one of the top 10 drag queens in the world. She makes all her own costumes, almost all of them. She makes them out of insane materials. Uh, and if you just, I would just follow her on Instagram because you will utterly be wowed. Her makeup skills are incredible. And she's always just whipping something up, putting it online, and you're like, goddess. Like
Right.
she's incredible. I got to meet her at DragCon, I guess 2 years ago. The line was super long for her. I was so happy. And if there's any queen you just dream of learning English to be on an all-winner season, it would be
Yeah.
Carmen Farala. She is, and I don't know if she has. There was rumors she was trying, and I don't know what it is. I know WoW loves her,
Yeah.
but she is a very much a primarily Spanish speaker. But if you are looking for a queen to inspire you, Carmen Farala is it.
And for the record, also when we talk about, I've been thinking about a list of like iconic international lip syncs, and hands down, her finale lip sync to a ballad in which she does a wig reveal from dry hair to wet hair is one for the record books.
Oh
It is
yeah.
absolutely incredible. To my end, I know last week I listened to Rue Girl and you had a non-Rue Girl. I think this week we're doing the opposite here because I
Oh,
want to shout out someone who I'm very excited by and I'll be honest, they're extremely hot, which certainly doesn't hurt the matter here. But from the Philippines and from the House of Ding, Bomba
Oh.
Ding is currently a queen who is currently, she performs with a lot of gender fuck, which is not something I
Oh.
necessarily see out of the House of Ding, where of course Brigading and Zimbading come from on there. But she is, so far, she's shown up in a lot of Zimbading's videos there. She is a dancer. She is very much a muscle queen as well, but has a beard, wears it proudly on stage, fucks around with a lot of stuff. And the clips that I keep seeing of her actually at performances when she's at Nectar or other places there, she is a dancer par none. She is excellent. She's funny. She has an amazing smile on here. I wish I knew more incredible details about her, but it's one of those things where we don't necessarily need to have a Ding dynasty coming out of Philippines, but especially if she does hold on to the genderfuck stuff that she does, I think she could be an amazing addition if she does ever decide to do Philippines. But if not, she's a great follow anyway. Bomba Ding, and as always, we will list their socials in the page notes too for the episode.
I would love to see the other Filipino queens and judges' reaction to a bearded queen on Drag Race Philippines. I don't know what it would be, so that's why I'm super curious.
Yeah. So, and if they do, it should be Bomba Ding. That's all I will say.
Yeah.
But hey, either way, hell of a recap, hell of a run over here. Thank you as always for your incredible insights and tea that you have to deliver, Gregory. It's always a thrill.
Back to you. Same. Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Before we go, we do have to say one thing. The one thing we forgot. Oh no, wait. Maybe we'll keep it till next week. We'll keep it till next week. It's
Yes.
about Global All Stars. We'll
Yeah.
keep it till next week.
Yeah, we'll have
Teasing
a lot
you.
to talk about with Global All Stars. We'll keep
Yes.
you about it too. In the meantime, thank you so much, Greg. And listeners, always worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com. Until then, I think we'll sashay away.
Sashay away.